Good afternoon. We are live with Dustin Flint. He's agreed to join us and do on-air live questions and answers. And he's actually agreed to do questions and answers about just about any subject, as long as they have to do with silhouette. So if you're on YouTube, you can use the chat. If you're on Facebook, just comment in the post alongside the Facebook group stream, and we should see them. Say good afternoon, Dustin.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening.
Now, you have taken time out of your busy schedule right before you're headed somewhere. So maybe you might want to explain where you're going.
Well, we're heading to Canada tomorrow to kick off the 2023 Monarch Cup, North American Championship. Super excited. I've never been to Bull River. I've never been to Canada, so it'll be a first for me.
All right, Dustin, why don't you give everybody a quick description about what Monarch Cup is, just in case they don't know.
Well, the Monarch Cup is the series of matches that eventually crowns the North American champion. It is originally designed to be a match in Canada, a match in the United States, and a match in Mexico. Last year, because our kickoff got delayed by 2 years because of COVID, we did two matches, one in Ridgeway and one down in Saltillo in Mexico. And this year we will be back to the normal planned 3 matches, starting off in Canada. So there's been a few changes to the way the Monarch Cup is scored for this year. So there will be some interesting differences from last year. But by and large, it's the same. It's who shoots the best over those 3 matches. And at the end of it all, down in Mexico, we'll find out who the champion is. Not only that, though, the important thing about the Monarch Cup for those folks that aren't necessarily there to shoot for the championship is that the prizes and the money for the classes is just unheard of. There's never been anything bigger than the Monarch Cup in our sport. So we hope it continues to grow. But yeah, it's the biggest and the best thing out there for silhouette shooters, and hopefully everybody shows up to at least one of those matches.
All right, well, why don't we get into some of the questions? I had some that were emailed in by, I'm going to guess, non-Facebook users that were trying to get in touch with me during the week. Let's see. They're not in any particular order, but they're good questions. First one.
You may read that, David? Okay, I'll read it. What is your weekly, daily, monthly training schedule? I assume that means training for shooting. My training schedule for shooting depends on what's going on, what's coming up. So in the middle of the season, like we're in right now, I will shoot pretty much every day. I'll shoot usually a 40 shot match. When I say a match, it's not necessarily that I'm going out and putting out targets and shooting at targets. Sometimes I'll do dry firing. Sometimes I'll shoot back in my backyard with the air rifle. Sometimes I'll take the small bore rifle out and shoot if I have access to the range and have time to do it. Basically, though, in the 2 weeks leading up to a championship match, I try to shoot at least a 40-shot match every day. And I just want to make 40 really, really good shots. And that might depend on what would be a good shot, might depend on whether or not I'm hitting a certain spot, or more likely than not, it's going to depend on whether I have a good trigger control, whether I'm doing what I want to do in each of those 40 shots. So, I've said it before, I know what a good shot looks like. So I'm trying to see a good shot every single time I shoot. Normally in training, that's not a problem. I can do it pretty easily. As most people can attest to, it's a lot easier in training than it is in a match. But as long as I'm seeing what I want to see in those 40 shots, I'm good to go. That's the 2 weeks before a championship match. I'm doing that 40 shots every day. If I'm outside of those 2 weeks, as in 3 weeks or a month before a championship match, I may just do 20 shots for those per day. If it's in the wintertime and we're just not in the shooting season, I will I'll skip some days. I mean, I try to give myself a little bit of a break right after a championship match. So, I might skip 3 or 4 days or a week. I know after the after the Texas State match in November of this year, when my season was basically done, of last year when my season was basically done, I don't think I picked up a rifle for 2 weeks. So I gave myself a little bit of a break after our state championship. This May, we had our state championship at the beginning of May, and I didn't have anything coming up until the middle of June, so I took a week off. So I tend to overdo it. So I have to make a conscious effort to give myself a break every now and then. So I'm not, I don't want to say shooting too much. I don't know that you can really shoot too much, but I want to keep it fun and not make it too much of a grind. But practice and training is a grind for me anyway. So anyway, that's daily. Weekly is just 7 days. Sometimes I'll take a day off, like right after a match. So we came back from Missouri, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. And I did not shoot on Monday, but I jumped right back into it on Tuesday. And so that's that. I mean, that's the daily and weekly, and then monthly. It just depends on what's coming up in what month.
All right. Here's another question. I translated as best I could. How long have you participated in silhouette?
I started in 2011. So I'm at, what's that, 12 years now? So that's how long I've been at it.
All right. Next one was, do you make changes to your diet or daily routine in preparation from a match? And I think people need to realize, too, that you're shooting a match every weekend pretty much, right?
Yeah, so we shoot pretty much every weekend. We have a club match every weekend of some sort, whether it's high power match or an air rifle match or small bore match. I don't pay a lot of attention to the club matches as far as what I'm doing in preparation for those matches. I pay attention to the championship matches, so a state championship or a national or regional championship. But I don't change my diet much. But I find that I shoot better generally if I'm eating a relatively low-fat diet. I don't really like a high-fat diet for shooting. I don't like a high-fat diet for regular living. So my diet is always pretty low-fat and very high carb and sugar. I eat a lot of sugar. I eat a lot of carbs. I keep my fat intake relatively low. And that's the way I always do it, and certainly the way I do it for matches too.
All right, let's see. This may be somewhat related. Do you compete in any other sports? If if not competitively, what other sports help you in your shooting?
Well, I'm an avid cyclist. Before I started shooting silhouette, I bicycle raced all over the country or at least all over the South for several years. And I still ride my bike pretty much every day. And that, I think, helps me pretty tremendously in shooting it. I'm a big proponent of cardiovascular fitness for shooting. I think it's important. I think that we need to, or we shoot better and we perform better at this sport if we're in better cardiovascular shape. I know I do. I've paid some attention to how I shoot when I'm in shape as opposed to when I'm not, like when times that I've had, forced layoffs on my bike or hadn't been able to work out or whatever for some period of time. Generally, I get a little bit of a dip in, at least a perceived dip in how my shooting is. And I think that if that were to go for some period of time, I would fall off a little bit. But cycling is the other sport that I'm used to be competitive in. I'll still go out with a group ride and hammer away a good bit, but I'm not real competitive in it anymore. I don't bike race anymore. It's too dangerous. It takes too much time.
I won't get into my horror stories about my bike racing career.
Go ahead. Tell us about it.
Oh man, I was heavily into it for a long time in the 1980s, 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
Too many concussions. It's not a good life. Especially riding at that level when I was not at that level. It's tough on your body to race with the big guys.
Yeah.
Even just being the guy who carries the feed bags,
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's not a good life. I'd much rather be shooting silhouette.
Yeah, I like shooting silhouette better too. I've actually got a bookshelf full of helmets in my garage. They're broken and
they're all broken. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
That's my reminder.
Single use, folks. Single use.
Yeah, and it's, you can tell it's like 12 times my life or my health has been saved by a bike helmet, and it matters. So if you're going to go out and ride a bike, wear a helmet. Step one.
When I started, we didn't even wear them.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't cool.
I know.
But anyway, I feel much safer around guns. Honestly.
Yeah, they're way safer.
No joke.
Yeah. They're way safer than bicycles for sure, especially bike races.
Yeah, you can't get run over by a gun.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, now, next question. This is a question that someone came up. And you have a nice article about it on your Substack, but I'm going to let you explain it for people too. I just want to make sure that people realize that you do have the Substack. You can read all kinds of great things that Dustin writes.
Yeah, and I promise you, I'm going to get back to it too. I don't think I posted anything in a couple months, but I've got a lot to put on that thing, and I've just got to have time to get it together. So as far as what rifles do I shoot, I'm trying to think of what I put in that article. So if we're starting, we'll just start with high power and go down. So I shoot a Defiance Tenacity 6.5x47 standard rifle with a Krieger barrel and a Leupold scope, and that's in standard rifle. I shoot a Remington 700 Action with a custom bolt in 6BR for hunter, and that's got a 7.5 twist benchmark barrel at the time. So shout out to Eric Meetencourt. He told me that I should try the benchmark barrels, and they're really great. That's got a Leupold scope on it, and so that's my high power. I shoot those two in high power. In small bore, I have an Anschutz super match type 5418 type action. It's actually not a 5418. It's the same trigger. It's a 5018 trigger, but it's a different action. It's a in between action. They call it the X action or something like that. I don't know. You can go look it up. It's one I just ran into and got, and it's got a Lilja type bore barrel on it and a far stock. All these have a far style Robertson type stock on it. And I shoot a Weaver T24 scope on my small bore rifle. In air rifle, I have my open air rifle, which is what I shoot generally, is a Walther Dominator, a rebuilt Walther Dominator. Alan Zazadny rebuilt that rifle for my buddy Bruce Finley, who then sold it to me because he didn't like the bottom of the stock or something like that, which was fine by me. So he stole me that gun, and I absolutely love it. It's a great rifle. It's a 177 caliber. It's shooting about, I don't know, 16 foot-pounds of energy or something like that. It's not screaming, but maybe 17. It's about, with a 10.5 grain pellet, it shoots about 850 feet a second, something like that. So that's my open air rifle. On that rifle, I shoot a Bushnell. Bushnell 4500 Elite. All my scopes are 24 power with half MOA dots. I also have a TX200 for a sporter air rifle, which I never shoot, and I try to avoid it because I don't really like sporter air rifles that much because they are finicky. And I don't like finicky. I like them to go where I aim them. And I have an Anschutz 2002, an old Anschutz 2002 target rifle, which is my target air rifle. And I don't shoot it in competition much anymore since we sort of changed the air rifle rules around a little bit, but I practice with it more than any other rifle. And that's got a Weaver T24 on it as well.
Now, while we're here, we're already talking about air rifles.
Yeah.
You do a lot down in Louisiana with air rifle silhouette as a sport in general, and with youth.
Yeah.
And man, I'd love you to expand on that whole program, because I'm trying to develop some of that in Tennessee as well. I went down to Louisiana for the Coop Shoot. If you haven't been to Louisiana for the Coop Shoot, you need to go. It's in February. It's an indoor shoot in a chicken coop, and it's fun. It's worth every second. If you could maybe explain a little bit about how you develop an air rifle down there, because it's something as part of NASSA, of course, I want to develop. I think it's a great gateway into silhouette for some of these folks who maybe not even shoot rifles that much, but they could get into air rifle.
Yeah. I also wrote an article about air rifle silhouette on that Substack, which air rifle is, if you ask me, what I put in the Substack article is that it was the most important type of silhouette, and you'll have to go read it to see how I got that. I sort of worked my way around to that, but I do think it's super important in that it allows for a silhouette match to be almost anywhere. You don't need a lot of land. You don't need a lot of buffer zone. You don't have to worry about noise. You don't have to worry about berms. You don't have to spend a lot of money on targets. You don't have to do much of anything. We shot for several years. We shot a Wednesday night match at a buddy of mine's house in a very affluent neighborhood here in Baton Rouge. We shot off the back porch. His yard was fenced in. He had 45 yards, and the neighbors for 2 years never knew anything about it. So you can shoot air rifle silhouette anywhere. It's not super expensive to get into. The rifles are about all that's required as far as money goes. I mean, but once you have the rifle and the scope, pellets are a lot less expensive than 22 bullets or than high power bullets. Don't tell Adam Braverman I said that, but it's important to use less expensive projectiles if you're going to be shooting projectiles instead of just dry firing all the time, because it's a lot easier on the wallet. So you can get a lot more practice with an air rifle. You can do it almost anywhere. You can set up a match anywhere. You can start a program for very little money. Just need some targets, and we love it. I mean, air rifle silhouette here kind of got started because we have an air rifle club in Baton Rouge. We have a range that's just for air rifles, and it is a phenomenal range. We have we have a match there, a championship match there every March. We have hosted a national championship here, I think 5 or 6 times when the NRA's let us do it. Hoping that we will have a North American championship that will start off in Baton Rouge the first year sometime soon, and that would be through NASSA. And we've got all kinds of good stuff going in air rifle through the Pro Air Federation, which is something you should look up, which is an air rifle organization that has really shown a lot of interest in air rifle silhouette as a sport to add to their other sports that are very popular. Air rifles are really, really popular around the world. And the sport of air rifle silhouette could really take off if it gets enough exposure, which the Pro Air Federation is hopefully going to be able to do. They certainly try. So, we have an air rifle range and we use it and we shoot a lot of air rifle. And I mean, down here is kind of the epicenter, the hub of air rifle silhouette in the whole world. Well, let me not say that, because Mexico's got a lot of good stuff in air rifles too. And other places in the world that doesn't shoot. And in the United States, Louisiana and Texas is the place to be for air rifle silhouette. But there's no reason that it has to be that way. I mean, any state, any club could jump right in and really, start an air rifle silhouette program easily. I mean, just way easier than small bore and a million times easier than high power or even lever action. So, yeah, I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I want to push through as part of NASSA. I know that, and so do other people involved. It's even something up north where it gets cold. I mean, there are even ways that you could do it indoors when it's cold.
Sure.
Without, you need the max distance on rams is 45 yards.
And you don't even have to have that if you get some little small targets cut out.
That too. Yeah. You can
do it down to 20 yards if you wanted to.
Yep.
And and it really, it's an easier game. And I made that point in that article. When they started air rifle silhouette, the equipment was not near, the technology was not near where it is today. Today, we have rifles that can do all kinds of great stuff, and they're very accurate out to 50 meters, which would be where the normal ram distance would be, because it's a 1/10 scale target, and 10% of 500 meters is 50 meters. But when they started the game, they had to move the targets in a little bit closer so the air rifles could keep up. And so now we have a game where you're shooting in yards instead of meters, and you're shooting at 20 yards, 30 yards, 36 yards instead of 38 meters, and 45 yards instead of 50 meters, which is a big difference. So air rifle silhouette's great in that it's a little easier to hit targets too, and I think it helps new shooters to not get it helps them to have more success earlier, sort of like lever action, really. The targets are a little bigger, and it's a little bit easier to deal with. Plus, you don't have some of these rules that we have in small bore and high power that affect the fit of the rifle and all that kind of good stuff. So we really, air rifle silhouette is a great game, and it's useful as far as building a program, even building a small bore or high power type program. Air rifle silhouette can help.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question. Well, I should say it's question within a question. If there's anybody out there that wants to join in on chat, now's your chance. You have Dustin's attention. But I'm going to ask this question because this is something that comes up a lot with newer shooters or folks who haven't shot in high power. And you were discussing earlier about the calibers that you shoot in high power, the BR, the 6.5 47. Before we totally wrap up, this is something I want to hit and I want to get on video. So you can try to explain to people why we want to try to choose those kinds of calibers.
You're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you?
I'm just looking for opinions. I'm not trying to.
Okay, so I'll start by prefacing this as this is my opinion completely.
This is the Ford versus Chevy question of silhouette.
Well, many people have different opinions as to this particular question. Okay, so the 6BR in particular, and the smaller calibers, but particularly the 6BR, is an easier rifle to shoot. It's easier to score well. It's easier to hit more targets with a 6BR than it is with a bigger rifle. And the reason there is basically twofold. The first thing is obviously there's less recoil. You're not getting hit over time. And I hear a lot of people that say that that recoil doesn't bother them, that they're not recoil sensitive, that it's no big deal. But I don't believe them. I think recoil over the course of a 40-shot match, which then often if you go to a regional championship or a state championship, especially a national championship, those 40-shot matches turn into 2 40-shot matches and 3 and 4 and 5. And if you go to nationals, you're going to shoot 6 40-shot matches if you shoot small bore, if you shoot standard and hunter. So over 3 days, 240 shots. The cumulative effect of recoil and noise, which is the second factor, is rough on you. And we've done. When I say we, I mean the top shooters out there have really done a lot to see where we can score the best. What does it take to score the best? Because, the reason I shoot a 6BR and the reason that Kathy Winstead and Eric Meetencourt and John Mullins, and I could just go on and on and on about all the folks that are shooting a 6BR at this point. The reason that we shoot those guns is because we score better with them. We can hit more targets. It's just easier over the long haul of a match to continue to make good shots when you're not dealing with as much noise and you're not dealing with as much recoil. So for a normal shooter, just somebody like me that is, not a really big dude, not a really small guy, it's going to be better for me because I'm going to hit more targets. Now, it's even more so when you take a little small young girl or a small guy or somebody that is not, able to, doesn't have as much mass behind that thing, behind the rifle. So, you're getting hit. It feels like you're getting hit harder because you're just not as big. And so we push the 6BR in particularly to our new shooters because it's more fun to shoot and it's less of a it just hits you less. It doesn't make as much noise. So that's why we push the 6BR. Now, the huge elephant in the room when it comes to high power and calibers and all that kind of good stuff is the rams, obviously. If you shoot a 6BR or a smaller caliber, a 6mm caliber, you don't have a lot of bullet hitting the rams. So there's a good possibility that you're going to leave some rams standing that you hit. You're going to ring them. Some places are better than others. Some ranges are better than others for that. And, you know, that can be an issue. Some people just cannot stand to hit a ram and not have it fall. I've gotten to the point where I had to kind of train myself to count a ringer as a hit in my mind, because, you know, it's if you let it get to you, it'll really, you know, mess with you. But, you know, the bottom line is we feel like everybody that chooses to shoot that caliber feels like that they can hit more chickens, pigs, and turkeys. And in hitting more, well, you'll hit more rams too, probably, but we'll hit more targets. And by hitting more chickens, pigs, and turkeys, it will make up for the rams that we lose to the ringers. So that's what we're doing. And I mean, you can see if you look around the country about the last, or the world really, even about the last 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, the scores are pretty good with the 6BRs, and we're getting up there where we're putting up pretty good numbers with those rifles. And when the rams fall, there's a good possibility of a national record with that rifle if you got a really good shooter there. So my opinion is that I want to hit as many targets as I can. I believe that matches are won on the short line, chickens and pigs. Generally, if you go back and you look at who wins big matches, at the winners, almost always it's the person that hits the most chickens and pigs. Not every once in a while there's an anomaly there, but usually those anomalies come when the scores are so high that almost all the chickens and pigs are being hit by the top shooters, and then it comes down to who misses a turkey or a ram or something here and there. But that being said, in high power, where the scores are generally not as high as small bore air rifle, I think that the 6BR, especially in the hunter gun, is the way to go. I think that's the way to go. And you know, there's a lot of people out there that feel like that we're, you know, they don't like the fact that we shoot good scores with those things because they want to keep that, you know, the ringing of the rams is sort of the legendary type deal with high power silhouette, you know, but I don't like that as much. I would rather see new shooters come in and enjoy the game than that, you know. And I can tell you, I've got 3 little girls. One of them's 9, one of them's 7, and one of them's 1. And those girls, if they want to shoot high power silhouette, they'll shoot a 6BR. They're not, you know, they're going to have something that they can have fun with. And I believe that that's the way to go.
It's no good if you're not having fun.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Now, I know I've held you for a half an hour already, but I am going to get one more question up here for you. I think I've actually featured you in your very excellent spotter in one of my videos a while ago. Might have been back in 2018, 2017. You have an excellent spotter, which is super helpful. Mm-hmm. For those who may be newer to silhouette is a team sport. It's a shooter-spotter sport. You've got to find yourself a good spotter, somebody you can work with who doesn't drive you crazy, whose brain works the same way yours works when you're on the line. And I kind of would like you to expand upon that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, of course, my spotter, as most people know, is Jerry Turo, and I believe he's, as far as spotting, is the best in the world. He's absolutely phenomenal when it comes to reading conditions, when it comes to determining what's going to happen, you know, on the next shot. And he, you know, and there's also the other side of that is, you know, in spotting is, and that's a video all on its own, but this idea that as a spotter, your job is to make the shot easier for the shooter. You take away, what we try to do is we take away all the thinking. My job 100% is to hit the spot that Jerry tells me to hit. And that's it. I don't look at wind flags when I shoot. I don't look at I don't look at the environment. His job 100% is to tell me where to shoot and to fix problems if those problems come up. So about the only thing that I'm doing up there outside of trying to make the shot is early in the string of targets, I'll tell Jerry where I broke the shot so that he can check my sight settings. So if, for instance, if he tells me, go right down the middle, and I take the shot and it's the first shot in string, I'll probably look at him and tell him where I broke that shot. And might be I broke it center of the breast. And he'll usually ask me, how was the elevation? He'll say something like up and down was good. I'll tell him that up and down was perfect, or I'll tell him it was low in the breast or something. And he'll look at where I hit through the scope and determine whether or not my sight setting's good. Once we're convinced that the sight setting's good, after shot 1 or 2, well, then it's just straight. He's telling me where to shoot, and I'm trying to hit the spot. So he's giving me a spot on the target every single time, and I'm trying to hit that spot every single time. I think that if you watch Jerry and I much, you'll see that I'm not the easiest person to spot for. But Jerry doesn't. If I'm kind of barking about something, he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to do the job, and he wants us to hit the target. And so I don't know that you necessarily need somebody that thinks like you do. I think you need somebody that can deal with the shooter, and the shooter can deal with the spotter. So you need to be comfortable with each other. You need to have a type of a system of nomenclature to where the spotter's saying something, you understand what the spotter's saying, and then you can go do it without there being any additional confusion in there. So like one thing I don't like at all is I don't like the words right or left to come into it at all. I'd rather it be like, if we're shooting at a turkey, instead of telling me to keep it to the left, I want you to tell me to keep it to the breast side or keep it to the tail side. Same thing with a chicken or any of them, breast side, tail side, head side, rump side, something like that. But that's the type of nomenclature that Jerry and I have, that, he knows, he knows what to say as far as how to call a shot where I'm comfortable hearing it, not having to think. And I know exactly what he means when he does that. So those two things, nomenclature and being comfortable there are, I think, what's really important in having a spotter. I don't think it's necessarily that important to go out and find somebody who is really great at reading the wind. I think that over time you can learn how to do that. I was lucky in that Jerry knew how to do all that stuff before I even started shooting. He was a great spotter before I started shooting. And then about 6 or 8 months after I started shooting, he'd been watching me a little bit, and he decided that I was going to be pretty good. So he just came up to me one day and said, "Look, you're shooting with me from now on. I'm going to spot for you." I didn't know anything any better. Jerry was the best shooter out there at the time at our little club matches. So I said, "Yes, sir." And he started teaching me how to spot and how to take commands from a spotter. So he said, "Look, this is how we're going to do it. You're gonna get up there and we're gonna do it like this, and these are the way we're gonna say this and that." And then over time, as I got to be a better shooter and got to be a little bit more experienced, I started, I could say something like, "Look, don't tell me left or right, tell me head side, tail side," something like that. And then over time, we've just morphed into something that we're completely comfortable with. So, Jerry's talent in spotting is tremendous for for us as a team to win matches or to compete. But the experience that we have together is what makes it comfortable and what makes it even, that's the first step in it being beneficial. The second step, if you can go find somebody like Jerry, you better go use them. I mean, I wouldn't give up Jerry for anything. I mean, about the only place that, Jerry is not tremendously useful is the coop shoot, but even there, I mean, he's still talking to me and he's talking me through it, and, he's doing what he does all the time. And that just that comfort level, it matters even in a place where, every call is right down the middle. So, yeah, I mean, Jerry and I, we talk on the phone several times a week about things. We see each other every weekend. We get together and we do simulated matches. We practice together sometime. And it's great, but it's no different than what you're seeing with a lot of the other top shooters. I mean, if you can watch like John Mullins and Dan Cates, Dan is phenomenal, I mean, Chris Winstead is absolutely phenomenal. And, there's others out there that are great, that do a great job and that know their shooters well enough that they can help them in ways other than just give them a good spot to aim at and reading the wind.
All right. Well, there was an awful lot of information covered in the last 40 minutes, and I thank you a lot for helping out, coming on, doing a live stream with us. I'm not going to keep you any further because I know that you got to get to Canada. So we wish you luck.
Thank you.
We will keep track of what you're doing up there, and I know that you post on Facebook through the Louisiana Silhouette Rifle Team. And thank you very much. And this was excellent, superb.
Yeah, you're welcome. We can do it. We can do it anytime. This is.
I think we've just scratched the surface on this.
Right.
There's so much more. I've been taking notes. I have.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to do it.
Cover.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with some of the other top shooters, and we've all can do to help grow the sport. And I think that doing things like this and making ourselves available for, whatever. I mean, I'll answer a question. I've told everybody, and I've got a bunch of questions that still need to be answered on the newsletter. But, yeah, go out and ask the shooters questions. And, just like anything else in life, if you want to get good at something, find the person that's doing it the way you want to do it, and then go find out what they're doing and copy it. So that's a good way to do it. Learn those things from, live streams or interviews or whatever. So yeah, it's lots of fun, and, happy to do it anytime.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have an excellent time in Canada. We're going to sign off. And this is an excellent first face-to-face interview on NASSA Livestream. Have a good evening and have a good time in Canada.
Thank you, David.